So hello everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel. We are here with a special guest, Luca Talks Dons, who's an MK Dons YouTube channel content creator. Of course, go give him a massive subscribe and like all his videos. They're absolutely amazing. And he's going to plan some brilliant content in the future, so make sure you do head over to his channel and like some stuff. So today, we are going to be doing our League 2 predictions for the upcoming 25-26 season. So yeah, it should be a good video, and let's go straight into it. So in 24th, bottom of the table, I'm going to be putting Accrington Stanley. Of course, John Doolan is the manager. They didn't have a very convincing season last year, stayed up by the skin of their teeth, was around the relegation zone the whole year, basically. Of course, ended up only finishing with 50 points, 8 points clear of the drop. They've let go of a few decent players, including like the likes of Ash Hunter, Jimmy Knowles, who have left the club. And the signings they've made, I don't think are proven in the league. They've come from like the National League and National League North, and the signings they've made just don't look good enough. They've got a few decent players in that side, like Sean Worley, Tyler Walton, Ferran Rawson at the back as well. They're all good leaders in the side. Alex Henderson, a youth player coming through at Accrington, but I don't think they're going to have a very convincing year. Of course, getting relegated from League One a few years back, and have struggled to come to terms with the league. Not, of course, convincing last year as well. So 24th, I'm going to be putting Accrington Stanley.
I've gone with the same as well. I've gone with Accrington Stanley. They finished like 50 points last season. Of course, they lost quite a lot of players. Accrington Stanley, in case you know, I've been there a couple of times. It's not the perfect weather to go up there, whether it's a Saturday or a Tuesday, but they're one of those teams where, look, time is up for them now. They've been in the League Two for quite some time, and they're a team where they always seem to stay up constantly non-stop. And look, normally in League Two, 50 points and above should be enough, but it could be all different this season, especially other teams.
Yeah.
Like the likes of like Bristol Rovers. Like, I'm not saying Bristol Rovers are going to be in a relegation fight, but of course you've got teams like that. Shrewsbury, some teams will come from League One, Barnet and Oldham get promoted from the National League. And this is why I just feel like Accrington Stanley have not really been that impressive this season. I need to go with them in 24th.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I just don't think it's going to be a good year for the Old Reds. Okay, so 23rd, I've gone with the Welsh side, Newport County. Newport County have had a few decent seasons. They've been in League Two for about 12, 13 years. They've been in that year constantly. They've even had promotion fights throughout their time there, relegation fights, staying up on the final day, losing playoff finals. They've been quite an unlucky club, really. They've been an unlucky club. Sometimes I go down watching Newport, it's not too bad. But they've appointed David Hughes from Man United, and that's a bit of a gamble. Of course, he's a Welsh lad, came from Man United's academy, but for me, it is a bit of a gamble. And if it doesn't pay off, then they're going to be kicking themselves, because Hugh Jenkins, I don't think, invests that much into the club. Last year wasn't convincing either. They finished 22nd with 49 points. Some days they look like prime Barcelona, but the next day just look like dog shit, really. It's just, they weren't that consistent either with getting wins and not retaining them. They have got some decent players. Matt Baker coming through. He's quite a young player, the Welshman. And they've also got, veteran James Clark. Pretty sure he's the captain. They've also signed Matt Smith and they've also got Bobby Camwer. Bobby Camwer, on his day, is an unbelievable footballer himself. Technically, he's quite brilliant, but sometimes he goes quite missing in games, and they've lost quite a few players as well. Nick Townsend has gone to Eastleigh. Sean McLaughlin has left. And, Keeban Rye, Aaron Rildig, the captain, left. They've signed a few players, but I don't think it's going to be a convincing year for them. I think the Port will go down this year.
I think for me, 23rd place, I'm going to go with Harrogate Town. Harrogate Town, of course, were a team that only stayed up with like 2 points distance of last season. They're one of those sides where are very, very, very bad. I really don't know how they managed to stay up. They have a very, very poor record against us, but I just feel like they are in a bit of a lot of trouble next season. I really do. And I think for me, it kind of like sends the message to the rest of the teams in League Two, because I look at it like there was 6 incidents this season where I kind of look at Harrogate, I think it's time for them to go down to the National League, and they've been struggling over the years, and that's why I've gone for them in 23rd place, really.
So in 22nd, I have gone with Barrow. Barrow have lost a lot of players. That's one thing for sure. They've lost a lot of players. Andy Wing is their manager, of course. I'm pretty sure he used to manage Solihull Moors. Last year they finished 16th with 59 points. An all right season, but they've lost a lot of players, and some of them, including Paul Farman, Theo Vassell, Dean Campbell, Kean Smith, Kean Spence, Ben Whitfield, Robbie Gotts, Dom Telford. Of course, Dom Telford didn't really feature for them that much, but on his day can be a very good player, especially at this league as well. And they've lost a few players as well. They definitely need to improve their defence, and I think they need a new goalkeeper as well. I don't think it's going to be a very convincing season for them, but the main one they've lost is Emil Aqua, who has gone to the Scottish League. He was a good goal scorer for Barrow, and they're really going to miss him since he's left, and I think they're just going to stay up by the skin of their teeth.
I think for me, for 22nd, I'm going to go for is Newport County. I think Newport County, for me, look, the manager, what you said, coming from Manchester United, what was the guy's name?
David Hughes.
David Hughes. Yeah, obviously, I don't know too much about him, but like I said, I agree with you because I think it's a bit of a gamble. I think Newport County losing quite a lot of players. They lost their captain in the summer. They lost their goalkeeper as well, and they brought in a few players. And of course, look, with that embargoed, they got away with it, didn't they?
Yeah, they got away with the embargo.
They got away with it, which is actually quite exciting. Look, they could stay up, but I've put them in 22nd. I think they get.
Yeah.
I think for me, they're going to have a very, very poor season, and
Yeah.
they get a few choices wrong. They got a manager who's a bit of a high risk. They're in a bit of trouble. And I think for me, Newport County, if they do get relegated, I don't even see them getting up to the National League. So, Mike Green, if you are listening to this, this is my opinion, and a massive shout out to you. And I just look at Newport County, where like they're a team where on their day they can be good. They beat us 6-3 in December. I wasn't at that game, but I've been to County 3 times, and look, for me, I'll be going there in a few weeks' time. And look, Bobby Camara, decent player. Was very. I was quite surprised they managed to get someone like that, but I just feel like they're going to go down. I really do. If Newport County can obviously like find some like good free agents out there, maybe they'll just have enough to stay up. But I've gone for them in 22nd.
So in 21st place, I've gone with Harrogate Town. Of course, Luca put Harrogate Town to be down there as well. The manager, Simon Weaver, who has taken them up through the leagues, granted, he's been there for a very, very long time. I think it was about 15, 16 years. Wow, what a job he's done. But I think this year they're going to have another poor season. They're always down the bottom. Like Lucas said, they're always surviving by the skin of their teeth. I don't see a lot of quality in that side, if I'm being honest. I don't think the signings they've made have been very good. They've got a few good players in their side. Tom Bradbury. Tom Bradbury is signed from Cheltenham Town. Bryn Morris, of course, joined in the winter transfer window from Newport County. Of course, he's a really good technical player on his day. Former Grimsby Newport County player, very, very good. And they've also signed Sean Mikulski from Maidenhead, who had a good season in the National League last year. But I just feel like that's a step backwards, going with someone like taking a punt on someone like Sean Mikulski. Used to play for Newport County, scored that winner against Leeds in the FA Cup 2016. But I just see nothing there. I see no improvement. They have lost a few players: Dean Cornelius, Matty Daly, Matty Folds. They need a striker and maybe a winger. I do think they could go down, but I think they could just stay up as well. So 21st, Harrogate Town.
21st, I'm going to go for is Barrow. I think Barrow for me they're not the team, of course, what they were a couple of seasons ago, where they almost got into the playoffs. Of course, their previous manager went to Fleetwood at the beginning of last season, and I just don't think they haven't been the same. Look, Barrow for me were a very, very good, decent side a couple of years ago, but I do think they will just have enough to survive in 21st place. They've been in League Two for such a long time now. It's a shame they're not the team as they were a couple of seasons ago, where they were challenging almost into the playoffs. But I've gone for them in 21st.
In 20th place, I'm going to go with Cheltenham Town. I don't see a lot there, to be honest. They've got a lot of experience in that side, not a lot of youth in the side as well. You know, Michael Flynn, former Newport County manager, is their current boss. And look, he's been around the Football League for a while. You know, the last year, 15th with 60 points. Yeah, there's not a lot of youth. It's very experienced. It's a very experienced side. They have got some good players though, like Joe Day. Arkle Boyd is a very good player. Ethan Archer, Jordan Thomas as well. What a signing he was from Bath City, I believe. Um, you know, they need to improve a lot as well. They haven't got a proper striker. I'm sorry, you can't survive a League Two season with George Miller and Lee Angle as your striker options. Lee Angle is decent sometimes, but George Miller for me is not the best striker in the world. I don't see a lot in that side. Of course, Michael Flynn will probably end up getting sacked. They'll flirt with relegation. They're a bottom half squad. They've lost players, you know, Sam Stubbs, Timothy Dieng, Matty Taylor, and Matty Taylor was the source of sort of goals last year. You know, that striker leaving. So it's going to be a difficult season for Cheltenham, but I think they will survive.
20th place, I've gone with the same as you. I think Cheltenham, look, former Newport County manager, Michael Flynn, very experienced manager. Look, I think Michael Flynn's time's up as a management, really. I don't think he's not the manager what he was, what people really talked about him in the past. But I just feel like they will have enough. Look, they've got experienced players in there. Ethan Archer, we were linked with him in the January transfer window. Of course, they've got Joe Day from Newport County. Look, they've mainly got players from Newport. It's only down the road.
They have.
I just feel like Joe Day, he's 40 years old. And why I just kind of feel like, yeah, okay, we've got a lot of experienced players. You know the division, but you need to fresh up the squad a little bit. You can't have near enough the same amount of players. And that's why I've gone with Cheltenham in 20th place.
Okay, so 19th place, maybe unpopular to some, but I think it'll be Tranmere Rovers. Listen, they didn't have the best season last year, of course. They had Nigel Adkins. They sacked him. Andy Crosby came in at the end of the season. Nobody really knew him, and he actually kept them up. So fair play to him. They have got a few decent players in this side. You know, they've signed Nathan Smith from Port Vale, Jason Lowe from Port Vale, Richard Smallwood, who's come on a free from Bradford City. You know, they've got some decent players in that side as well, and I just think that it's a bottom half side. You know, of course, maybe they could push for playoffs throughout the season or top end of the table. But for me, I do think they'll be around the bottom. Maybe unpopular to some, like I said, but that's just what I think will happen this year. They've lost a few players like Regan Hendry, who's gone to Mansfield. Christian Dennis, of course, hasn't left, but he's still there. He's losing his legs. Of course, not the player he used to be when he was at Cedric Carlisle United. They've lost Kieran Morris to Oldham, Josh Hawkes to Oldham. I just think it's not going to be the greatest season, but they'll survive. It'll be, and I'm not saying 19th is a relegation battle, but they'll be around there.
In 19th place, I'm going to go for is Crawley Town. Scott Lindsay's Crawley. Of course, coming back from a relegation from League One to League Two, bringing back Scott Lindsay obviously gives me memory vibes when they battered us a couple of seasons ago. I was there for both games and vlogging it. But I feel like, look, this is a season where, of course, like, I don't expect anything for Crawley. Obviously, they've got ownership issues. They've got a bit of trouble, of course. And I just feel like, yes, they have made some businesses in the door. I don't really remember who they brought in, but I know they brought in quite a few signings. But I just feel like with the whole ownership, they are in a little bit of trouble. And this is why I just kind of feel like, look, Scott Lindsay done very well. He was good at Crawley. At MK Dons, started okay, but I think he just lost the dressing room with us, and he kind of lost the style of play, possession play. That's not what MK Dons play, and this is why Crawley, I have to go and put them in 18th place. I think they're just going to have a season where they will survive, bottom half, mid-table, and I put them in 19th spot. I mean 19th spot.
So in 18th spot, I am going to go with Crew Alexandra. last year they started very well. People talk about the Walsall bottle when they were so far ahead at Christmas, but you've got to look at Crewe Alexandra. They were on about 50 points at Christmas, doing very well in the automatic spots. A lot of points clear at the playoffs as well. Everything was going planned out for them, but then they just lost it at the end of the year. They were just kept losing games. Of course, Lee Bell is their manager, of course, a former player there as well. Yeah, he could be the man to take him up in the future, but yeah, they've got a few decent players like Mickey Demetrio, Joel Taberner, Mattis Holakek, Jack Lancaster, Shiloh Tracy. Just depends how those players play on the day. Of course, Mickey Demetrio, we know him. He's been playing in the Football League for so long. Of course, previous captain with Newport County as well, did so well there. I just don't think the club is League One ready. They've got a very good fan base as well. They've got Tommy O'Reilly in from Aston Villa as well on loan, who could be a key signing as well. But for 18th, I've gone with Crewe Alexandra.
For 18th place, I'm probably gonna go with Bromley. I know Bromley had a very, very good season last season, but I just kind of feel like this season, second season into, yes, they've got a decent coach, they've got good old backroom staff, good goalkeeper, and all that. But I just feel like with Bromley, look, yeah, they've got Michael Cheek, very good, experienced striker. We were linked to him in January, but I just kind of feel like maybe with them, I just feel like they're just not going to have the same season. So I've gone for them in 18th place.
Right, so for 17th place, I'm going to go with Oldham Athletic. Some people put them as their dark horses. Yes, they could be dark horses, but I think Mickey Mellon's just got to steady the ship, get Oldham, keeping them in the Football League. Of course, their first season back, it was horrible when they went down to the National League, the first ever team to go from the Premier League to non-league. It was very sad, but they came back up, beat Southend in a miraculous playoff final last year, and of course they finished 5th in the playoffs with 73 points. They ended up getting promoted. They've brought some good players in, to be fair. They've got Derevon Daniels, who was at Walsall last year, Ryan Woods, who was at Exeter last year, Ollie Hammond, Welsh Under-21s international, Corey Evans, who's played in the Premier League, Kieran Morris as well, and they've even got Cian Harrett in that side, who scored the goal to take them up and even threw a cheer at someone on holiday. Mike Fondop as well did very well last year. They've got quite an experienced squad. They've also lost James Norwood to Fleetwood Town, a very good striker, knows the EFL as well, so he'll be a big loss. They'll be underdogs, of course, but for me, they should be fine. So 17th for them.
17th place, I'm going to go for Cambridge. I think Cambridge will survive this season. Of course, I know Gary Monk left them last season. Neil Harris is coming. I just feel like with Cambridge, he's pretty much similar to the pace of Neil Harris, what Gary Monk was. But I just kind of feel like with Cambridge, look, they're back in League Two. They had their excitement for League One. But I just feel like it's just going to turn into, like, people expect Cambridge to go straight back up. But I don't think they will. I think they're going to finish around 17th this season because I think they're going to have like a very, very difficult season. They will survive. I think they've got good players. But I just don't think Neil Harris is not kind of the manager who's going to get them out of this division back into League One. And I think they're kind of like a very mediocre kind of side where sometimes they'll dominate most games. But even last season, they were probably the worst team in League One. If Neil Harris can get them right, maybe sneak playoffs, but I just don't see anything in this. So I'm going to have to go with 17th Cambridge.
So for 16th place, I'm going to go with Andy Woodman's Bromley. Of course, like Lucas said, they had a good season last year, surprised everyone, finishing in 11th with 66 points. They were, I believe, 4 points off of playoffs. great season last season. They've got some good players in that side, like Kyle Cameron, who's come in from, I believe, Notts County, Byron Webster, Carl Jenkinson, who's played with Arsenal in the Premier League. Of course, wasn't a regular starter, but he was there. Mitch Pinnock is also a very good signing for me from Northampton Town. They've got Michael Cheek as well. And for me, Michael Cheek's goals will be what defines their season. If Michael Cheek can have a season like he did last year, they'll stay up fine. So, but for me, they've got, some good players. They've even signed, Will Hondermack as well from Northampton Town. I don't know a lot about him. They could have second season syndrome, but for me, they could be around mid-table area. So for me, 16th for Bromley.
In 16th place, I'm going to go for, I'm probably going to go with Swindon on this one. I think with Swindon, of course, obviously, like they had quite a lot of ownership problems. They had a few protests. Swindon as well. Look, they were a team where, look, Ian Holloway, very experienced manager. They weren't that great last season. I wouldn't say they were kind of like really a relegation battle. I personally thought they were going to not get relegated, but I thought it would have been finished into a similar situation as MK Dons did. But I just feel like with Ian Holloway, look, if he can get some technical players going, and if he can get them under the weight and get some decent players in the window, maybe Swindon could finish higher than 16th place, maybe around a top 12, top 10. But I just think Swindon are going to finish near around 16th this season.
So for 15th place, for me, it's going to be Cambridge United. Of course, they came down from League One last year, gave it a good go. They stayed up the last few seasons in League One, did well to get there in the first place, did well to stay up, but last year they went down, didn't work out. They tried at the end of the year. They brought Neil Harris and Mark Bonner back to the club, all out trying to stay up. They won a few games, of course, but at the end of the day, they couldn't stay up. They narrowly went down, but at the end of the day, deserved to went down. But this year, they're going to want to try and improve. They've brought some players in. They've got some good players in this side. They've signed Ben Hughes, who was in the Cymru Premier last season with Carnarvon Town. So big up to him playing Welsh football. And then they've also signed Ben Purington, who was formerly of Exeter City. They've got Michael Morrison, very, very experienced player, done it in the Championship. We've got Liam Bennett, Don Ball, Corey Smith, James Brophy, Sully Kakai, Shane Lavery. Some good quality players in that side. But for me, this year, it's not going to be good enough. It's a struggle to bounce back after losing so many good players as well. Jack Stevens, the goalkeeper, I think he's signed for Reading. Jordan Cousins as well. Gary Gardner, of course, didn't play much last year, but they're still very good players that they'll struggle after losing. So they need a few improvements in there. But for me, they could struggle this year and finish 15th. It'll be a frustrating season for Cambridge United.
15th place, I've gone for Crewe. I think Crewe Alexander, 15th place. Last season, I just don't think they went that great. Of course, a lot of people might think they might finish a little bit higher than that, but I just kind of feel like, look, their best centre back is Mickey Dimitro, very experienced, 35, 36 years of age. They've got Max Saunders, Connor Thomas, Hoyslick as well. And look, if Crewe can obviously have a better season, because people talk about Crewe, oh, this is a team that can get into the playoffs. This is a team where they might actually challenge with other teams. But I just feel like with Crewe, they're not the team anymore. And I just feel like they're going to finish like mid-table this season. And I just don't think they're not the team as they were, and I think they are expecting another disappointing season. So I've gone from 15th.
14th place, it's going to be a steady season for Barnet. Dean Brennan, of course, did really well. He's got a really good mentality, wants the best for the people of Barnet. He wants the best for the football club. He won the National League last year with Barnet with 102 points, beating York to the title by 6 points. Of course, Dean Brennan, fighting mentality, always wants to win, always wants to score. He's got ambition and pride. They've got some great players. They've made an unbelievable signing in Romani Critchlow, who was at Bradford City last year. They've got Daniel Collins, the captain. They've got Scott High, Dennis Adeniran, Joe Hugel has even signed, and maybe a bit of a awkward punt on someone that old. But Ollie Hawkins even comes in after he got released from Gillingham. It's their first season back in the Football League since 2017-18 season. They've lost Reece Hall-Johnson as well, who was a good player. Harry Chapman as well, a very good player on their day. But I feel for me that they're going to have a fine season, and there we go. That's my 14th place.
14th place, I've gone for the same as you with Barnet. Barnet are a team where they got promoted, dominated the league in the National League. I think they can have a similar season what Bromley had last season. I think they'll start the season well to try and get other people excited. And then I feel like maybe like middle of the season or second half of the season, I just feel like they kind of like fall off. I think, look, they've done well in the National League. Of course, I don't know what bookies' favourites they are for Barnet, but I'm sure a lot of people are expecting them lot to survive. But I've gone with them in 14th.
13th place, I think it will be Scott Lindsay's Crawley Town. Of course, last year was a disaster, let's be honest. Scott Lindsay had the first half of the season, then went off to MK Dons. Of course, like Lucas said, didn't do well. They brought in Rob Elliott. That was an absolute disaster. They brought Scott Lindsay back, but started picking up wins, and once they did, it wasn't enough. So they got relegated 21st on 46 points. Of course, they have brought in some good players, Harvey Davis, who's coming on loan from Liverpool as well. They have lost Rushan Hepburn-Murphy to MK Dons. They've lost Toby Malarkey, who's gone to Fleetwood Town. They have got some decent players in this side, Harry McCurdy as well. Of course, knows the league, very quality player on his day. They could challenge for playoffs. They'll be around mid-table or even a relegation fight. But I think they'll be fine. Not a relegation fight, but I think they'll be fine. So they could improve the defence and maybe another striker for me. But to be fair, I don't think it's enough for playoffs. I don't think the squad's good enough for playoffs, but I think it is where they'll finish. So 13th place, I've got Crawley Town.
In 13th place, I'm probably going to go with Oldham. Oldham, very, very surprised that they managed to come across literally through all the National League playoffs. Beat Southend. I wanted Southend really, but Oldham Athletic, I do think they're going to be a team that are going to surprise people. Maybe even finish higher than 13th, maybe top 10. But I've gone with Oldham in 13th place. They've been in the National League for quite a few seasons. Should be a League Two side. They've got a good CEO, Dan Ryer. Has obviously done very well in the club, invested into the club at Boundary Park. And look, Boundary Park on its day could be a very, very rocketed atmosphere. It was during into the playoffs. Of course, they beat Southend in the final. So I've gone with Oldham in 13th place.
12th place, I'm going with Salford City, of course. Last season, they finished 8th on 69 points, just about missing out on playoffs. But the manager is Carl Robinson, of course, a very experienced manager at this level. They have lost a few players like Haki Bagadalukan, Liam Shepherd, Curtis Tilt, Conor McElhenney, Matty Lund, Jamie Jones. They probably need to improve that goalkeeper position, defence, midfield. It could be an underwhelming season for Salford City. They have got some good players in there like Tom Edwards, Haji Minoga, Cole Stockton, Jay Bird is also coming from Exeter City, which I think is a good signing. After coming from Rochdale last year, had a good season in the National League in the time he was there, but they've got good ownership as well, with the 92. Sometimes it's like bizarre crap. But yeah, 12th I'm going with Salford.
12th place, I'm going to go for the same as you, Salford. I think Salford are going to be a team where, look, a lot of people were expecting Salford to challenge this season, especially with Carl Robinson. And I just feel like Carl Robinson's actually kind of like lost a bit of touch a little bit. I think he's a decent manager. I just feel like he's not what he was before. And I just feel like, look, Salford, of course, have lost quite a lot of players in the summer. Mid-table, I've gone for them in 12th place.
11th place, I am going with Shrewsbury Town. Of course, their manager is Michael Appleton, former Man United player, former Blackpool manager. Last year for them, very disappointing season, finishing rock bottom on 33 points, getting relegated. But I'm a bit impressed with some of the players they brought in. Sam Stubbs, Will Boyle, Tom Anderson, all improving the defensive unit. Tom Anderson won promotion with Doncaster last year. Alex Gilliard, of course, is still there after he signed from Bradford last season. Sam Clucas has even come to the club. That's a good signing. George Lloyd and John Marquis are still there as well. So it should be a decent season for them. They're going to want to bounce back after a very sad relegation. They have lost a few players like Jordan Shipley, Aaron Pierre, Jamal Blackman, but I think they could be pushing for playoffs some points in the season. But for me, they're going to be 11th place.
In 11th place, I'm going to go for is Tranmere Rovers. I think Tranmere Rovers, you guys might be very, very surprised with my prediction. Tranmere Rovers were a team that were early in parts of last season, well, not beginning of the season, but middle of the season, they went on this horrible run where it took them a very long time to win games, I think 3 or 4 months, and then they had to survive. Then they went on this little bit of a good run towards the end of the season, pick up a bit of momentum. They were unbeaten, I think 6 games. I think they won 3 or 4 of the possible games and drawn a couple. But I feel look, Tranmere Rovers, of course, did lose a couple of players to Oldham. But I just feel with Tranmere, I feel they're going to get a lot better this season. I think they're going to build a bit of momentum going from last season when they managed to stay up. They brought in quite a few players. Of course, they've got the experience of Cameron Norman. Of course, it's going to show that physical presence at Brendan Park. But I just feel Tranmere Rovers, I think they're going to have a really good season. And they've signed Richie Smallwood from Bradford City, very experienced player. Very good, strong area, very good attacking, strong. That's going to improve Tranmere. So I've gone for them in 11th place.
As we enter the top 10, I'm going to start off with Fleetwood Town. Of course, they've got Pete Wild at the helm. I think he's a very, very good manager. Last season, they finished 14th on 60 points. They've got some good players in that side, like, David Harrington, Toby Malarkey, James Bolton, Denver Hume, which is an absolutely cracking signing from Grimsby Town. I think he was in the team of the season last year. Very good player, Denver Hume. They've also got Sean Rooney back, Matty Virtue, James Norwood. I think they're going to be playoff challengers for me. They've got a good squad. It looks good. They're going to want to build on from last year where they, finished around mid-table. Of course, Pete Wild is a good manager, did well on a limited budget at Barrow. He's a very good manager, like I said, but they have lost Brendan Weirdo, which I think is a big loss for them. Of course, Wigan came calling in January, didn't get him. I think he's gone to Plymouth now, and also Phoenix Patterson has also left. So, yeah, it's going to be a decent season for Fleetwood, in my opinion.
I'm probably going to go with the same as you. I'm probably going to go with Fleetwood because Fleetwood, for me, look, Pete Wild, very, very, very good, experienced manager. Almost got Barrow promoted into the playoff places, but Fleetwood, of course, sign urgent players like the likes of James Norwood, very experienced striker, knows the division. To sign the players, what you said as well. But if they can get this team going together, especially with James Norwood, I don't see why not Fleetwood can get playoffs because they can't accept another season. Yes, they don't have the great money of terms of budgeting, but they've managed to pull out James Norwood, where is a very, very good sign. Was that a free agent, James Norwood?
I'm not too sure. I don't think it was.
No, I don't know what it was, but I do think Fleetwood will finish in 10th place.
In 9th place, I'm going to go with Notts County. Of course, their manager is Martin Patterson, and of course, he's not taking charge of a proper game yet. We're going to be playing Notts County on Saturday in a pre-season friendly. I'm not going to be there, but I don't think he's the right man for the job. I don't think he's the right man at all. 24-25 last year under Stuart Maynard. He's not the greatest manager ever either. But they finished 6th with 72 points. They have signed some decent players, though. They've got some good players in the squad, like Keller Roos, who's signed recently, Jacob Bather, who played last year very well, Matty Platt. They've also got Barry Cotter, who recently signed, Jody Jones, and Alassana Jatta is the one you want to look out for. Of course, Jatta last year got 24 goals and 6 assists. But they have lost a few good players. David McGoldrick, Alex Bass. They're going to be key losses to Notts County that could hinder their season. They could make playoffs. You never know. See how it goes. But for me, 9th is Notts County.
In 9th place, you're going to be very, very surprised about it. This could be a shock, right? I've gone with Walsall. I think Walsall, for me, of course, they've lost a lot of players in the summer. They didn't manage to keep that player from Stoke City. And also I just feel like, look, they had the biggest bottle jobs of last season.
Yeah.
Like when we played them in January when we lost, of course, they were 21 points clear of us. And we were fighting for a relegation, and we were enough around the mid-table situation. And look, for me, for Sadler as well, for Warsaw, how can you go and bottle lead where everybody thought you were going to go and win the league, and you get into the playoffs and you lose at Wembley to AFC? I really think Walsall will not have a good season. I really do. And look, they must somehow get into the playoffs or promotion places, because after the season, they've had a very terrible last season. They had a good start to the season, but the last couple of months towards the end of last season, they really fell off the pecking order. And look, I've gone with Warsaw in the top 10, and I've gone with 9th place.
In 8th place, I'm going to go with Colchester United. Of course, last season they finished 10th with 67 points, missing out on playoffs by 3 points. Of course, Danny Cowley did a very good job. Of course, they lost momentum at the end of the season. At one point from the 18th of January to the 15th of March, they went 13 unbeaten. They've got some good players in that side, like Matt Macy. Of course, you probably don't like him, because I remember you used to rant at him all the time when he was at Dons. But Jack Tucker is there as well. Dominic Gape. It's a bizarre signing for me. Dom Gape at his age, but still could do a job. Arthur Reed, Jack Payne, Warren Edwards, Samson Divide, Lyle Taylor. They're players that could really push on and do well. If the squad gels well, then it definitely could go well. Of course, it may need a couple of full backs, in my opinion. I don't think they've got a very good squad depth, but they will definitely be dark horses again. They've made some decent signings. They're solid. So, yeah, they could have a good season. So for 8th, I'm going with Colchester United.
8th place, I've gone with Notts County. And Notts County, of course, are a team where they are like, I wouldn't say completely bottlers, but they're a team where they always seem to start well. They're a team. Are they a team to finally get at League Two? Are they going to be a team where, like, they're going to dominate? And I just feel like this season we're just going to miss out on the playoffs. Yeah, okay, they've made loads of signs. They've signed Curtis Edwards, Junior Moraz, Carl Cameron as a centre back, Giovanni Brown, Will Jarvis as well, top player, also joined on loan from Hull City. But are these Notts County players aren't going to be able to gel in? That's my only problem. Look, of course, if they can somehow keep their main man, Janta as well for Notts County, I do think Notts County might squeeze it into the playoffs. I just feel like they're a team where they'll go and beat the team where they don't expect to win, and then they go and lose to the teams that they are expected to win. So I've gone with Notts in 8th place.
Let's get into the playoffs. So I'm kicking the start off with Grimsby Town. I think David Artle is a very, very good manager. Of course, he's got promoted out of the league before. Of course, like I said, they lost Denver Hume. They lost a few players, maybe and Jordan Wright and Lewis Cass, but they shouldn't be too big losses apart from Hume. They've also signed a few good players as well. They've also got in their squad, Christy Pym, who's come in from Mansfield and a couple of good years at the One Call Stadium. Harvey Rogers, George McEachran, who was at Oxford United last year. They've signed Jamie Walker, and for me, this is a very impressive signing. Of course, was at Bradford City last year, a part of their squad, and also one you could look out for is JC Dadden, Jason Daddy Savanson. Could do well this year, you know. I definitely think they could go for this year. Of course, narrowly missed out on playoffs last year. They've got a good squad. They've got a good enough squad to do it for me. So they only missed out on playoffs by 2 points last year. This year, I think they will get playoffs. So 7th place for me is Grimsby Town.
7th place I'm going to go for is Colchester United. Colchester United are a team that I do think will be a dark horse. Colchester are kind of like, look, I think they've still got Jack Payne there at Colchester. Very good experience midfielder. It was a shame that MK Dons couldn't keep him when we signed him under, I think it was Graham Alexander. But look, I just feel like with Colchester, they are going to have like a very, very good season. And look, I do think, look, they had that incredible run toward the end of last season. But I just feel like they're a team now where they're going to get into the playoffs. And I look at Colchester, look, if they could somehow sign some more players, look, of course they've got Jack Tucker. I was never a fan of Jack Tucker. I just don't think he didn't do well. But of course they've got in Ben Goodlife from Southend, very good. Will Goodin as well. They've signed some okay, decent players, but I do think they've got a lot of experience in that team that will do a job. And look, Jack Tucker on his day can do a job, don't get me wrong. So I've gone with Colchester in 7th place.
6th place, I am going with Swindon Town. I've been quite impressed with the squad while looking at it. Ian Holloway is, of course, their manager. Been around the Football League for so long, achieved a few promotions as well along the way. The start of last season was disastrous, to say the least, and I think that's an understatement itself. They were like 24th, barely had any wins, but Ian Holloway came in, they started losing. Ian Holloway blamed the losses for ghosts. He said the training ground was haunted, and then as soon as he said that, they started winning. So he exposed them, I guess. But yeah, they've got some good players in their squad, like Connor Ripley, Ryan Delaney. Of course, Connor Ripley is a very good goalkeeper as well. Been there, done that with Morecambe, Port Vale. Will Wright as well, who got promoted with Crawley Town from this league, knows the league. Gavin Kilkenny, Ollie Clark, Harry Smith. Harry Smith, of course, got a load of goals last year. A very, very good striker, Harry Smith is. Tom Nichols as well has come in. He was on loan from January and now he's signed on a permanent. They've made some signings like Darren Oldacre, James Ball, Billy Bowden, Manny Monroe, and of course the main one for me, Jake Tabor. Of course, was playing 10th tier or 9th tier football last season with Amersham. Scored about 120 something goals in 100 or something games. It was mental stats. And Dave, what I like to see, they've taken a gamble on him. Could be the next Jamie Vardy. You never know. He knows how to find the back of the net. He scored in a pre-season friendly the other week, so good for him. And for 6th place, I'm going with Swindon Town, the Robins.
6th place, I'm going to go for Grimsby Town. Look, I think Grimsby Town are a team where they were very, very disappointed missing out on the playoffs last season. And even, look, of course, Artel as well for Grimsby. They're a team who were very, very impressive last season. When it came down to the final day, they needed to win, but they lost to AFC. They needed to rely on results. I think they're going to get it right this year. I think they're going in the right direction. Grimsby Town do. They were a very, very good side. And I think there's been a massive turnover in the last 12 months, 9 to 12 months. I think with Grimsby, look, with 17 players from the squad from last season, I really think they're going to end up being like a team that will finish in the top 5. I really do. And that's why I've gone for Grimsby in 6th place.
So, for 5th place in the playoffs, I'm going to go with the Gas Bristol Rovers. Of course, Darryl Clark is their manager. He's been at the club before. He's had promotion with the club. He's had promotion with Port Vale. Knows the league, knows the club. They've made some good signings as well. They've got some great players in the team. Jack Sparks, Alfie Kilgore, Macaulay Southam Hales, Luke Southwood. And they've also got, good experience in that side. They've lost a few players, maybe Jamie Lindsay, Jack Hunt, Romain Sawyers, Scott Sinclair. They've lost some experienced players, but I think they'll be in the playoffs. I think they'll do well this year. And for me, Bristol Rovers will finish 5th.
In 5th place, I'm going to go for is Chesterfield. I think Paul Cook, for me, very good experienced manager, managed clubs like Wigan Athletic, Portsmouth. Last season, for me, they did okay. They had a good start. They had a good start to the season. Missed out onto the playoffs. Just missed out on the top 7. But I just feel like with Chesterfield, of course, especially with the chairman, Mike Goodwin, the fan base are now bringing some bounce into the home stadium. They are a very difficult side to stop at home, especially when we played them in New Year's Day, especially when we had our ex-goalkeeper, Tom McGill. He, of course, made some very good saves in that game. But I feel like, have they still got Will Grigg there?
Yes, I'm pretty sure they have, yeah.
Paddy Madden. So they've got plenty of a lot of experienced players. That's why I've gone with Chesterfield in 5th place.
In 4th place and my playoff winners, I'm going to be going with Gillingham. Gillingham have got Gareth Ainsworth at the wheel. He knows that league. He's a top end League One, bottom end Championship manager. Of course, wasn't the best at Shrewsbury Town, but nobody could save that club, in all honesty. He even beat Birmingham with that Shrewsbury side, so that's a surprise. So that shows how good he is. Gillingham had some manager problems, last year. They had 3 managers, Mark Bonner, John Coleman, of course, Gareth Ainsworth came in at the end of the season. So Gareth Ainsworth pushing on, signing his own players, having his own transfer window. They got some great players in that side, like, Romeo Hutton, Bradley Dack, Johnny Williams, Jack Nolan. Of course, Jack Nolan didn't have the best season last year, but we know he had a great season at Accrington a couple of years back. If he can kick on, Gareth Ainsworth can get the best out of him, he'll have a good year. Seb Palmer Holden is a very, very good signing for me. Of course, knows the league. He'll track players down, very good striker. And Sam Vokes, the veteran, he's got Premier League experience. I reckon they could definitely go up this year. They've got some backing as well. This year I think they'll go up.
4th place I'm going to go for is Gillingham. Gillingham, of course, do have Gareth Ainsworth. Very, very, very surprising candidate that was last season. And look, what were Gillingham meant to do last season? Of course, obviously getting rid of their manager, even when John Coleman was in charge. Look, I do think with Gareth Ainsworth, he has a very good style of play, and what he achieved with Wycombe, getting back-to-back promotions, got a good attacking style of play. A lot apart from doing so well, and he's got a very good character about him. And look, of course, I know they released players like Ollie Hawkins, Jaden Clark, but I just feel like Gillingham are going to finish in the top 4 for me.
So, on to the automatics. I'm going with the Bottlers first. The Bottlers, they better not bottle it this time, or Matt Sadler's going to get sacked. But last year, they came 4th. What did they have? 79 points. They were 12 points clear at Christmas. Oh, we won the league at Christmas, guys. But nope, that ended well, didn't it? Of course. You've got some good players in there, where Miles Roberts has come in as a goalkeeper. Yes. I think he was in Watford, wasn't he? And this is the signing for me. Now, he may be a bit old, but he can still do it. He did it a couple of years back. Aidan Flint signed for Walsall yesterday, which, for me, wow, what a signing that is. Of course, former Cardiff, Bristol City, Middlesbrough, Swindon Town player, Mansfield player, won promotion with Mansfield. He's a very tall centre back. I'll give you that. He's hard to win headers against. He's hard to beat. They've got Bracey Parkinson in that side as well, another decent centre half. Connor Barrett, Albert Adoma. But the thing is, for me, I don't think they've got a good enough striker. I don't think Jamil Matt at his age 35 is the greatest. So they're definitely going to need the striker. They lost. Now, what I can't get my head around is why they offered a new contract to Jamil Matt, but let go Danny Johnson, and he's gone to Hartlepool now. They've also lost Ryan Sturck. It's going to be a tough season for them again. You never know. Maybe Gillingham could take that third place spot. For me, I think Walsall could just about do it.
For third place, I'm going to go for is Bristol Rovers. Bristol Rovers was a very surprising team. I really thought we were going to go down. And look, this was a team where, not to disrespect any Bristol Rovers vloggers or anything like that, YouTubers, but they were a team a ground where I really, really wanted to go, and I'm really looking forward to when we play them this season coming up. And look, of course, I do think they will go up. I do think they're a team that will go straight back up. Going to be a very, very good side. Going to be a team that's going to be a lot of problems. Going to cause quite a lot of problems. They've got a lot of experienced players, Bristol Rovers, and this is why I look at Bristol Rovers where they have to go straight back up. They shouldn't be a League Two side. They haven't been in League Two for how long have they not been in League Two now?
They got relegated last year from League One, but they were in League Two and then National League before that, so they worked their way around. They've been around the leagues, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. They've obviously worked their way around and of course got what they've done. But I think Bristol Rovers aren't going to finish at the top.
So the top two, I'm going with Chesterfield in second. Paul Cook is a very good manager. Last season they finished in the playoffs, 70 points, 7th place, and they lost on both legs to Walsall. So for me this year, they've got some really, really good players. Now they've got like Kyle McFadzean, they've got Che Dunkley, who's a brilliant centre back, Adam Lewis, who did very well in League Two with Newport County. He was, of course, with Morecambe last year to get relegated, but it's not his fault because they're in a mess right now as well, so hopefully they get better soon. Well, yeah. Carl McFadzean, Tom Naylor, John Fleck, former Premier League player, Dylan McCandy. Now, this is a really, really good bit of business from Chesterfield here, signing Dylan McCandy. I think he left on a free from Blackburn Rovers. So yeah, that's a very, very good signing. They've got Will Grigg, Paddy Madden, 2 goal machines. Yes, age is not on their side, but the amount of goals they do score are on their side. So, I've also signed Ryan Sturck as well, who was at Walsall last year. Possibly could improve the goalkeeper, but they're going to go up, I think. They've got small squad depth, but I think they'll go up this year. So second for me is Chesterfield.
Second place I've gone for is Shrewsbury Town. I think Shrewsbury Town, of course, you guys are probably going to think, what the hell? But I've gone with Shrewsbury Town. Shrewsbury Town, for me, look, I know a lot of people might predict them like relegation, mid-table, but you never know. Look, did anyone expect it? Like, okay, Walsall didn't make it into the top 3, but however, Walsall were in the top 3 for pretty much majority of the season, and then they kind of like fell off the cliff. Look, I think Shrewsbury Town have done very well. They've got decent players. I wouldn't say it's a fantastic squad, but it's about whether these players are going to gel in. If they don't gel in, and if they maybe they'll finish maybe around 9th, 10th, maybe even a bit mid-table-ish. But I really think they're going to have a good season. I think they're going to finish first place.
And for first place, there's only one option left for both of us. It's MK Dons, a team Luca supports. So good luck to you this year, Luca. Very good squad. Paul Warne, very good manager. Last year was a disaster, let's say. I predicted Dons to win the league last year, and then just some bizarre crap happened, and then you ended up finishing 19th with 52 points. You went for a few managers as well, but now this is the year. You've got Connell Truman, Luke Offord, Gethin Jones, Will Collar, Liam Kelly, Dan Crowley, Alex Gilby, Nathaniel Mendez-Lang, Aaron Collins, Jonathan Lecco, Rushan Hepburn Murphy. Just listen to some of them names. You're bound to win the league, really. You've got Paul Warner, such a good manager. You've lost a few players, but I don't think that's really going to matter. Jay Williams, maybe a bit of a loss. He's gone to Crawley Town. Jack Tucker's left. Ellis Harrison's left. But Aaron Collins is an unbelievable signing. Signing him from Bolton Wanderers, he's a 20-goal League Two striker, really. A League One striker, I mean to say. Could even play Championship. He's a very, very good player. You've got a good stadium, It's a shame it doesn't get filled out because if the people of Milton Keynes came together, it could be a good atmosphere. Of course, people don't like MK Dons because of what they did, but it's still a football club. So first, it's going to be MK Dons, and I think they'll get over 100 points probably. So on to Luca to what do you think?
For me, my team, MK Dons, I think for me, if we can somehow get in a few more additions, what I like about Paul Warne is he's a manager where he's got very good experience, physical presence about him. He's got teams promoted like Rotherham, Derby County, he did okay. We've signed the likes of Mendes Liang, a very good experience. I've been to a couple of pre-season games. I will be going to one on Saturday against Stevenage, League One side. Aaron Collins, what can I say about Aaron Collins? To pull him off with 850k to pretty much near enough a million. What a fantastic sign. Scored a hat-trick against Hitchin Town. Scored against Peterborough on Tuesday night. I know we lost 2-1. But you can see where the club's going at the moment, especially with the whole ownership change. Okay, last season, terrible season. A lot of people, even myself, I think I predict this to finish second or third. But I just felt like we had manageable changes, like the likes of Williamson left. Williamson, of course, did get MK Dons into the playoffs of the previous season, but of course, we know what happened there. We don't want to talk about it. But of course, then we got Scott Lindsay, got us 6 games he won straight away, and then of course, completely lost the dressing room. All went wrong. We're bringing people like Dan Crowley in, Danilo Oslo, who scored like over 15 goals or so for Burton Albion. But the problem was just the team was not gelling in, couldn't find the rhythm going into the squad. And Lindsay just lost the dressing room, and then have lost, and it just didn't work out. And then we brought Gladwin in, and then Paul Warne came in. Ended very strong towards the end of the season. Got a couple of wins, got a couple of draws. But yeah, look, I really do think MK Dons, we are going to win the league. If we can add a few more additions, we have been linked with quite a few. We've been linked with Stephen Fletcher from Wrexham.
Wow, that'd be a good sign.
And also we've been linked with Michael Smith as well, and a Stevenage striker who played for Wolverhampton. So look,
I think Michael Smith signed for Preston.
Oh, he signed for Preston?
I'm not sure. I think he has. I think I read something about that.
I'm not sure. So, but look, if we can get those type of players in, I think we could do with another left back, because I don't know if Tomlinson can. Look, Tomlinson's a very good player, but I feel like, can he actually handle the pressure going into this season? And look, of course, I know we got battered by Crawley in the playoffs, but the worst scenario would be if we don't go up.
Oh, I know.
Then I don't think they're out of the league for a very long time. I really don't. Not for a couple of seasons, because with an MK Don side where, of course, you've got Mendes Liang. Okay, yes, age is knocking on the door. 33 years old. But you've seen players like last season, David McGoldrick from Notts County, who was linked with us. We were going to buy David McGoldrick, but we didn't. I think McGoldrick's gone to, where's he gone now? Barnsley. Yeah. So he's obviously stepped up his level, and he's too good for League Two. So therefore, he's going to be good for League One. And this is why I feel like with Paul Warne, I trust in the manager, and I feel like there's a bit of culture around the club. He's a manager where I really think we are going in the right direction with the new ownership. We've got a new sponsorship now. Of course, MK Dons released their third kit yesterday. And I think we're going to win the league.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be
definitely.
But
so everyone, that concludes our League Two predictions. Hope you guys did enjoy. Now, before we go, we got to say thank you to Luca, who gladly came on very kindly. Make sure you do give him a massive subscribe, and what content have you got coming up, Luca, that people could be
coming up? Maybe I'll drop a video later on. Might do a live stream, a Q&A stream. I'm not going to do what happened yesterday, but of course, obviously, we might do a Q&A stream as well if I'm up for it. Tomorrow, of course, I'm going to buy the third MK Dons kit, so I'm going to buy a couple of kits. So I'm going to do a pre-recorded video on that to get my review on that. So make sure you do check that out, and also the matchday vlog this weekend against League One side, pre-season friendly against Stevenage, and then start the season starting from next Saturday home to Oldham. So make sure there'll be a couple of videos throughout the weekend, not too much. We're on the road to 8,800 subscribers. So if you haven't subscribed, just hit subscribe button and I'll subscribe.
Yeah. Try and get Luca over there to 9K by, let's say, Christmas. Is that the goal?
Yeah.
So it's very
88 subscribers from 8.8. So if we can get 9K by Christmas, that'd be good.
Yeah, that'd be good for him. So yeah, thank you for coming on, Luca. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you do like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.